So now that we know that the Fed can use different monetary policies to affect the money supply, which turns around and affects the money market equilibrium, which affects the interest rates, and the interest rates will encourage or discourage people from investing more, and the encouraging or discouraging of investing more is going to affect purchases, which is going to affect how businesses operate, which is going to affect national income, which is going to affect aggregate demand. And we have this long cycle of how these all interact and affect each other. But why would the Fed even want to get involved? What are they trying to accomplish? Well, they're either trying to get rid of recessionary or inflationary gaps. So let's go ahead and talk about a recessionary gap. Remember that a recessionary gap is whenever the equilibrium output is less than full employment. That we could actually increase what our production, and if we increased our production, it would actually get us closer to that full employment. We truly want to be at full employment. That's where the economy is going to be working the best. Now, let's say we've got a recessionary gap where our output is actually less than full employment. So we want to try and get rid of that. Well, what we can do, or what the Fed will actually do, is use expansionary monetary policy to combat those recessionary gaps. So what does the expansionary policy do? Well, that's where they're trying to increase and expand the money supply. Remember, they're going to do that by lowering that discount rate, by lowering the required reserve ratio. They're going to be doing that by actually buying back those governmental securities, trying to increase that monetary or that money supply. So they're going to use that expansionary monetary policy to try and combat a sluggish economy and combat high unemployment. So they're going to try and lower the unemployment rate, and they're going to try to spur on the economy, get it working again. So what they do is they increase the money supply. They shift that money supply over here to the right. That is in turn going to lower the interest rate like we've been talking about. And what that lower interest rate does is it actually increases the available credit to consumers and producers. It means that the banks now have more excess reserves, that they're going to be trying to loan out. It increases that competition of excess reserves, and ultimately what it does is it lowers that interest rates. So, well, how do they complete this? Well, we already talked about that. They're going to try and combat the recessionary gap by enacting an expansionary monetary policy. An expansionary monetary policy is completed by buying government securities, lowering that discount rate, and lowering the required reserve ratio. So if they buy government securities, what that does is that increases the amount of reserves within a bank. If they're lowering the discount rate, that's also going to increase reserves. If they lower that required reserve ratio, it increases that money multiplier. In any case, essentially what they're going to do is all of this is leading to an increased money supply. This increased money supply leads to increased reserves, and those increased reserves are being used for loans. Those increased loan amount, it actually increases the credit availability, and it's going to lower those interest rates. Because there's more credit available and there's basically more competition now, that those interest rates are going to fall. So if the interest rates are falling, that actually leads people, it becomes cheaper for people to invest in things. So investment expenditures actually increase, and it leads to that increase in national income. That increase in national income will expand consumption. Aggregate demand actually goes up. So basically, with lower interest rates, it means more stuff is being bought. Since more stuff is being bought, we are actually going to produce more. If we're producing more, we need more workers to produce it. If more workers are being used to produce this, then they're going to have a higher income. With them having a higher income, it means that they're going to be buying more. With them buying more, it's going to lead to even more being produced and actually start this revolving cycle in that sense. So one of the things that the Fed is going to do, that if they're trying to combat these recessionary gaps, if they're trying to actually increase or spur on the economy, reduce a sluggish economy, and combat high unemployment, They're going to start by buying government securities, lowering that discount rate, lowering the required reserve ratio. Essentially, it's going to increase the amount of money that we have in the excess reserves. The increased excess reserves then leads to lower discount rates, not discount rates, but lower interest rates. Lower interest rates is going to encourage consumption. It's going to encourage investment expenditures, spurring on the economy.